evening, Nikisha Henry, and tonight we will be having a conversation to discuss the new guidelines and regulations and how it changes the way that we do business again. We will also talk about how long the new restrictions are expected to last and what resources will be available to small businesses to help them stay afloat during this time of uncertainty. So just a few things before we get started. If you are a Technical Assistance Program participant, also known as TAP, if you're viewing for credit, please be sure to log in to BSBA-ca.org and scroll under the calendar. There you will find a picture of the broadcast flyer, and next to it you will see instructions to complete the survey for credit. And as always, if you have questions for our guest or our panelists tonight, please be sure to put them in the chat and we will be sure to answer each and every one of them for you. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. We have some very special guests tonight. So our first panelist is Dr. Peter Bielenson, the Director of Public Health for Sacramento County. Welcome, Dr. Bielenson. If you could just take a minute and let everyone know what major shoes that you feel here right here in Sacramento County.
Well, thank you for having me, Keisha. I'm actually a native of Sacramento. I was a little kid when I was 10 years old. I lived here, went away for about 40 years, was in Baltimore and was the health commissioner in Baltimore, and then ran a nonprofit health insurance cooperative under the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, for several years, and then just came back to Sacramento about 3 years ago.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we are excited to hear from you a little bit later on in the broadcast. Next up, we have panelist Sophia Kanan with the Women's Business Center. Welcome, Sophia.
Hi, how are you?
Good. If you could let everyone know in about a minute or so what it is that you do and what services you provide with the Women's Business Center.
Sure. So I work for a local nonprofit known as California Capital Financial Development Corporation, and I oversee the Women's Business Center, which is a federally funded nonprofit program that provides technical assistance services in the form of training and one-on-one counseling. And so we provide no-cost services to small businesses and entrepreneurs and really anyone looking to start a business.
Also looking forward to hearing from you a little later in the broadcast. Next up, we have Chris Lodgson with Sac Black Biz.
Hey,
welcome, Chris.
Chris Lodgson here with Sac Black Biz. I am the creator and founder of Sac Black Biz, which is Sacramento's most awesomest, most amazingest hub, social media hub for Black-owned businesses. We run the largest Black-owned business directory in Sacramento County. We connect regularly, daily with hundreds of Black-owned businesses. We help Black people do business with Black people here in the city and county of California. And I am honored and so happy to be here today with BSBA. I'm also on the board of BSBA as well. Full disclosure.
Thank you for that full disclosure, Chris. And we also look forward to hearing from you a little later and all that Sac Black Biz is doing. And last but certainly not least, our final panelist, Ms. Heather Lutzi with the SBA.
Thanks.
Welcome, Heather.
Thanks, Nikisha. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to provide some guidance and resources during this, pandemic. And what my job with the SBA is, I'm actually the district director for the Sacramento district office. So most states around the country have one district office. California, because of our population, we've actually got 6. So I cover the 22 northeastern counties of the state and up to the Oregon border, over to the Nevada border, and down through San Joaquin County. Happy to be here, and thanks so much.
We are happy to have you. And if we can get all of the panelists on broadcast right now. Awesome. So you guys, we're just going to go ahead and jump right in. Again, thank you all for joining us tonight. So Dr. Bielenson, I would like to start with you. First of all, 2020 has been a year like no other globally, not just nationally, but globally. How did we get here? And what can we expect moving into 2021?
Well, we got hit with a little virus that's called the coronavirus, and it has wreaked havoc on a lot of the country, actually virtually all of the country, to the point where it's, although some places have bent the curve down, as we did originally, the spread of the disease increased, then it went down again, and now it's increasing dramatically with a surge that's occurring all over the country right now. I think we're in for a worse time now for the next couple of months before we get better. Let me just talk about that real briefly. We're in what's called the purple tier in California, which is the most widespread tier. 94% of the counties are in that tier, and that requires most businesses to be restricted fairly significantly, if not completely. I'm very concerned because the majority of our cases are in nursing homes and gatherings of people's houses. That with the gathering time of Thanksgiving coming up, that is the single day that I'm most worried about of the entire year, because it's in virtually all American cultures. It's the time when people gather from near and far. So we've got to really enforce on people and really get people to follow through on not gathering this year alone. And I'll tell you why in a minute. Between now and the holiday season, it's really important to only gather with people from your own household. Really not senior citizens, not grandparents, not college kids, if you can help it. If you have to have it outdoors. Have it at lunchtime, it's Thanksgiving at lunchtime, and have large card tables between them so people are seating further apart. But basically, the most important thing is to not have gatherings. And the reason why this is finally turning the corner is, as we move to 2021, we will have vaccine available, starting with the medical care workers and nursing home patients, and soon for all folks to have vaccine, so that by next year, next year in the summertime, we will be back to virtual complete normalcy.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because obviously, as you say, no gathering. We are in the thick of holiday season. As a matter of fact, Thanksgiving is just a few days away now. With those who, choose to gather with those family members who may be outside of their households, obviously that could put a threat on Sacramento County as far as the cases increasing even more. So with that being said, obviously the purple tier is the worst, but if the numbers get out of control like they were, and this thing continues to go rampant like it did back in March of this year, how likely is it that everything will be shut down again as it was back in March?
So we really think that things should be done judiciously, with kind of surgical skill, if you will. We know from our contact tracers that the majority of our cases are from gatherings. Originally were from Halloween gatherings, and now they're going to be Thanksgiving gatherings, and nursing home patients. They are not in restaurants. They are not in gyms. Only 7%, for example, of our cases come from the restaurant industry. So we strongly encourage the state to restrict activities related to the spread of the disease. That means if there needs to be a curfew at 6 p.m., I'm saying 6 p.m., 7 p.m., let's say, from gatherings, we should do that rather than a 10 p.m. curfew and closing down the restaurants from being indoors. You understand what I'm saying? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say it that way. So,
what you're saying.
Yeah, in a judicious, appropriate manner, using the data that we are collecting, we know what is causing the spread of the disease, and it's not the restaurants and the fitness studios, it's the gatherings. And so that's what we should really crack down on.
Okay. And so if, as everyone states, this thing is going to get worse, before it gets better. If there is another shutdown, or there are, earlier curfews set in place, is there anything in place to help the small business community if that happens?
Yeah. So I think first of all, the fact that there's a new administration in Washington makes it almost certain that there will be a major new coronavirus called CARES funding, version probably 5, I think it is now, which will have things like the payroll protection plan and things to help small businesses keep going when they're not open. So yes, I think that'll happen, and I think it'll actually happen in the lame duck session, if not shortly thereafter in January or February.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bielenson. Hopefully, we don't have to get to that point. And like you said, the holiday season, it's really tough because of course we want to be close with our families and our loved ones, but hopefully we can all, do so in a safe manner and only with those within our household. Thank you so much, Dr. Bielenson, for that. I would like to bring on Sophia next, Kanan. So, Sophia, this is actually a perfect segue into what we want to talk about next. So, how has California Capital helped small businesses during this pandemic?
Oh my. How haven't we? I think is a really great question. But no, we first things first, counseling, one-on-one counseling, being at the front line and being available right at the start of the pandemic to provide that one-on-one assistance so that we can, guide businesses with pivoting or re-strategizing. We created COVID-19 small business relief series where we had information sessions and webinars on PPP and EIDL and unemployment eligibility, mental health, because we all know that was something that was really important. And so, our goal and through the pandemic and even now is to really just assist businesses with not only pivoting, but we're finding that a lot of folks are starting a business as well. There are a lot of people that are having trouble, but there are a lot of people that are finding a need. And when you're starting a business and when you're looking to start a business that has the ability to thrive, it's because it's serving a need, and a lot of people are doing that right now. And so we've just been providing various types of assistance.
That's awesome. And speaking of assistance, with the Women's Business Center, obviously, are men able to take advantage of your services as well?
Our services are open to anyone and everyone looking to start a business. The initiative behind the Women's Business Center was to get more women entrepreneurs into the workforce and into the industry of their choice. But our services are absolutely open to anyone and everyone. We work very closely with a lot of resource partners. We are partially funded by the Small Business Administration, and we're what's considered a resource partner. And so whenever folks have questions or need a resource, we are one of the resource partners that are able to assist.
Okay, that's amazing. And having that partnership with the SBA is vital, more so now probably than ever before. And because of, obviously the pandemic and the havoc that it's wreaked on a lot of the small businesses and entrepreneurs. So if folks are interested, in taking advantage of some of your programs and being eligible, what is it that they need to do? Is there a certain process that they need to follow? How does that work?
So eligibility in terms of, there's no criteria for becoming eligible for our services. Our services are of no cost. They're taken care of by your prepaid tax dollars. California Capital, the nonprofit that houses the Women's Business Center, has been around for over 35 years, and it does have financing programs and lending programs that are also available to business owners. And so if those are, I know access to capital is a huge conversation, and finding, finding trustworthy sources of capital can be difficult at times. And so, but what helps when you do find that source of income that you are looking to, tap into, if you can, you really want to make sure that you have a resource and you have someone that you can work with to build your business plan or to build financial projections. Because when you have a business plan, when you have financial projections, you're in a better state, and you're in a better position to ask for the things that you need.
Right, absolutely. And you bring up a good point, because if without the business plan and all of these other things set in place, I think a lot of folks who are just getting started and wanting to start a business, moving from entrepreneurship into actually owning a business, I think it's very, very important to know that these services do exist and what they need to do in order to take advantage of them. So I would thank you for that, Heather. I would like to bring, I'm sorry, Sophia, I would like to bring on Heather right now to the broadcast. Thank you so much, Sophia.
No problem.
There.
Hi, Heather. So speaking of funding, you know, there were quite a few rounds of federal assistance that went out, and a lot of folks were not able to take advantage because the money simply just ran out. So are there still funds left for the PPP and the EIDL programs?
Actually, that's a great question, Nikisha. So here's the thing. There are actually two different programs, and I know that there's a lot of confusion out there. And when we talk in these acronyms, I think that kind of adds to it. So the PPP, or Paycheck Protection Program, as well as the EIDL, or Economic Injury Disaster Loan, are two programs that the agency stood up with the response to the COVID-19 crisis. The PPP loan, or Paycheck Protection Program, that funding there is still funding available. However, the way that the program was written, the program expired on August 8th. So we're waiting for our congressional leaders to come to an agreement with respect to furthering that program. Dr. Bielenson had mentioned the CARES Act, and that's definitely on the table. There's been a lot of discussion about that with our political leaders. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are on. Small businesses are nonpartisan. Small businesses are in everybody's best interest. And I think that our leaders recognize that. And it's such a critical time for us that I truly believe that we'll come to some agreement soon. There's $130 billion left in that PPP funding program. Now, on the other side, there's the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, and that's a program that is facilitated by SBA. The PPP is a loan guaranteed by the SBA, and we approve the forgiveness process of that particular transaction, but it's our lending partners that are actually lending the funds. So it could be certified development corporations, it could be your banks, your credit unions, that type of thing. With the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, those are funds allocated from the U.S. government through SBA, and we are the direct lender on that program. We still have plenty of money left in that program as well, and that program has not expired. So if you have folks in the audience that are looking for additional assistance, if they're looking for capital, they can, reach out to Sophia and her team. They can absolutely help get you finance ready, or they can come to SBA directly, and we will assist them with processing that loan, telling you what's required, etc. So hopefully that kind of clarifies.
So just to kind of go over what you said. So basically the PPP, the funds are still available. As a matter of fact, you stated there's $130 billion still available. It's just that the program expired on August 8th. So in other words, is it that the $130 billion is accessible, but because it has not been extended, it's just sitting there and waiting for an extension?
It's going to take an act of Congress, our leaders, to come together to come to an agreement on getting those funds out the door again. I don't necessarily know what that's going to look like. There's been a lot of talk about kind of a PPP 2, or a furthering of that Paycheck Protection Program. Hopefully, we'll get this information soon. But what I would love for your guests to take away today is that the Economic Injury Disaster Loans are still available. And, don't wait until the last minute, because there are millions of applications that came in. I just want to give you kind of the gravity of the situation with respect to the Small Business Administration. So keeping in mind that with the CARES Act, the program from SBA was stood up, the Paycheck Protection Program was stood up in a 6-day time frame, 6 days from the time that it was signed into law until we launched the program. With that said, we did a tremendous amount of work on those with our lending partners, training them on the processes, them, getting the word out to their members and account holders. But we also were able to bring in so many more lenders into our lending program to kind of give them a flavor of what SBA lending is all about. And when you have a loan that's 100% guaranteed by the federal government, the banks and credit unions are much more apt to lend because they have that security. So it's a risk mitigation for the lenders. With the standing up of both of these programs, we went from an agency of less than 2,000 people to now an agency of over 9,000 in the last 8 months. So, and we still are, making our way through these economic injury disaster loans. Honestly, the Office of Disaster Assistance has just done a Herculean task with getting through these. One thing that I will say that has been very unfortunate during this time frame on both the economic injury disaster loans as well as the PPP loans is that anytime you come up with some type of a crisis, and that's the environment that we're in a crisis environment, you get a lot of fraudsters or not above par people. So, I just really want to tout the services of our resource partners, and that's through the Women's Business Center that Sophia represents, the Small Business Development Centers, our Veterans Business Outreach Centers, and then organizations such as yourself who can assist these businesses in getting the capital that they need and doing it the right way. Don't, go online and look for capital that really is unvetted. And, there's a quick way to get cash, but honestly, it's not always the best way. So, take your time, do the research, and reach out for assistance, because as Sophia indicated earlier, all of these services that are offered are all free of charge, or rather, I should say they're prepaid by your tax dollars. So you've already got a vested interest in it. Just, utilize those resources that you've paid for.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that, Heather. So question, the EIDL. So there's no expiration date on that. Do you know approximately what the dollar amount is as far as funds being available? Because the PPP, we know there's 130 billion, but what about the EIDL?
So the economic injury disaster loans, the last numbers that I was provided on that, there was close to $100 billion left in that pot. So keep in mind that, the funds are definitely still available. With respect to an expiration date, I think when we launched the economic injury disaster loan for COVID, it was kind of given that end of the year time frame. I'm 99.999% certain that we will be extending that program based on our circumstances. I mean, look at the entire country. We're not any better off than we were 6 months ago. And as Dr. Bielenson indicated, we're actually worse off. So I really know that these programs are out there and available to small businesses. And again, we're here to help.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So the EIDL still available, PPP just waiting on the act of Congress to get that going. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Heather. And if we can get Chris Lodgson, if we can bring him on. Hi, Chris.
Hey.
Hi.
Great conversation. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's again, as we know, 2020 has been a year of no other, and it's had a huge impact on small businesses, but a lot of Black small businesses have been hit, quite harder, just to be honest. So, what are you hearing from some of the small Black business owners? Do they seem optimistic? That they have the tools to survive if or when we get shut down again?
Well, Ron, thank you for the question. Thank you for the invitation, and big shout out to Heather and Peter and Sophia. To your question, some of our Black businesses, at least some of the ones that we're talking to here in the city and county of Sacramento, are cautiously optimistic, and I want to say some because it's not the majority. And to your first point about the impact of the crisis that is COVID, and then the economic fallout. We are from the most conservative estimates that I've seen. We've lost almost 1 in 3 Black businesses already. So I want to pause there. Already, from the month of March, February, March to today, there's 30% less Black businesses open right now because of COVID and because of the economic fallout. So for those businesses that are still in existence, the 2 out of 3 that are still in existence, some of them are very cautiously optimistic, but I can tell you from just having conversations with business owners on a daily basis, and we actually put out some polling around this also very, very recently. There is a mixed sense of trepidation. There's pessimism. There's confusion. Some our businesses are going to do everything and anything they can to adjust and to maintain and sustain themselves for as long as they can. Right, that's in our DNA. That's who we are as a people. Right, as Black folks here in this country, we know how to adapt and adjust. But for many of us, that's just not going to be enough. Right. We have, in our conversations, heard from business owners that they are, not surprised, based on what they've been hearing from the health data and from the health outlook, that was talked about earlier. They're not surprised about the direction that we are going in terms of, business closures. There is some anger also too, by the way, and I want to be honest here, there is some anger, excuse me, especially at local government, state government, and especially the federal government. It was actually hard for me to hear just now that there's $130 billion sitting right now that could be in a Black business here in Sacramento somewhere, or somewhere where you are, right? And so there is definitely some anger, also about the inaction from and around the people whose job it is to secure businesses when things happen that are outside of their control. And this pandemic was outside of anyone's control. No one was preparing for this. The entire country was hit. This was nobody's fault. But that's some of the sentiment that we're hearing from Black-owned businesses for those that are still in existence.
Yeah, and the sentiment is definitely, understood across the board. I think it's it is really difficult, when everything relies on an act of Congress, as Heather stated before. But I also think it is promising to know that the economic injury disaster loan, there are funds still available, and there is no, expiration date on that. So hopefully a lot of our small business owners, especially our Black small business owners that are viewing tonight, will take full advantage of that. But speaking of these programs, Chris, have you, what is the gist of the majority of the small Black business owners? Have they been able to take advantage of either the PPP program, the payroll protection program, or the EIDL?
No, for some of the most conservative estimates that I've seen, some between 7 and 9 out of 10 Black business appliers to these programs were not able to access either any capital or the capital in the amount that they needed to actually run their business through a worsening crisis, right? Through the worst recession possibly since the Great Depression, which we're in right now, right? So that's with business owners directly, and I myself, and many other small business advocates here in the city of Sacramento have been working one-on-one and one-on-group with Black-owned businesses directly since March around this particular crisis, and we had a significant amount of difficulty. One, positioning businesses to prepare themselves to receive some of the capital, And then once we got that part sort of squared away, we had more success for sure. But we are only able to reach a very small amount of Black-owned businesses compared to the number of Black-owned businesses that actually needed the help. So that's how you get to the 9 out of 10 who were not able to access the capital or the capital in the amount that they needed. And there was also in this last point, the EIDL and the PPP are two very differently structured programs, and I'm glad Heather teased that out. The much larger funded, much more federally supported program, which was the PPP, had a structure that was designed for businesses that were not Black owned. And I just have to be honest with you, the way that the PPP was structured, it was structured in such a way that it was almost a guarantee that we were going to write out a lot of Black-owned businesses from the capital access picture because of how it was structured, right? Favoring businesses, more employees than not, favoring businesses with profitability, favoring businesses with property ownership, with existing relationships to banks, the lack of data collection, and so forth and so on. And so in these next rounds of business finance, which I'm hopeful that are coming, but I know I'm not going to come without advocacy and action, like from groups like this, right? If we're going to get this right, we are going to have to, in addition to pumping more money into the pot, in addition to opening up that faucet of $130 billion that's sitting there, right? We're going to have to really target and really focus on getting funds to Black-owned businesses specifically.
You know what? You said a mouthful there, Chris, because everything that you hit on, and that was actually going to be my next question, but you answered that as far as why was there a lack of access? And so, going through and talking about how the loans were structured. And I mean, we all saw that in the beginning when you saw some of these multi-million-dollar companies getting PPP loans and economic relief, and then the small that left a lot of the small businesses. And a lot of the companies were giving money back because they realized that the small businesses were being left out. And you know what? The small businesses, they are the backbone to our economy, and then when you add in the small Black businesses, it's even just as important as the rest. So thank you so much for that invaluable information. At this time, I would like to bring on the rest of our panelists back into the broadcast. And I believe Dr. Bielenson had another engagement that he had to attend. I'm sure virtual. Everything is virtual these days. So anyhow, you all have shared a wealth of knowledge. And so I kind of want to just open it up to all of you, just a few questions to kind of go around and, just kind of figure out where to go from here, basically, because that's what a lot of small business owners are wondering right now. When you've put all of your blood, sweat, and tears into your own company, and then just to see it almost crumble right in front of you, that's a very traumatic thing, as a business owner. So my first question is, do you guys believe that a 2 or 3 week stay-at-home order would hurt businesses more or hurt them less than shifting back and forth between restrictive guidelines, less restrictive tiers, restrictive, less restrictive? What do you guys think about that? Let's start with you, Heather.
Thank you. That's really a difficult question to answer. I mean, just for some background, both of my grandparents were self-employed entrepreneurs. My mother was self-employed. My father was self-employed. I previously owned a business with my husband, and it is heartbreaking what's going on out there. Absolutely heartbreaking. But if there were capital available to these businesses in the amount needed. So I know Chris touched on a couple of things with respect to the PPP loans and how they were structured. It was initially an 8-week time frame, and then it was expanded to a 10-week time frame. clearly none of that was enough time, because look where we're at now. With the EIDL transactions, the loan amounts were not asked for by the borrowers, or even if they were asked for, there was a formula, and it was 6 months of last year's profit. So they took whatever you made in 2019 and, allocated 6 months worth of that, thinking that that would get us through this pandemic. Clearly, that's not enough. So I don't even know how to answer that question, Nikisha. I'm not sure what's worse. I think ultimately money in the hands of small businesses is what we need. And however that looks, I would just implore all of your listeners to contact their congressional leaders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think as with everything else, there's just too much uncertainty,
right.
And that's the hard part, because we're all trying to, especially small business owners, trying to operate on uncertainty. So we don't know which direction to move in, who's going to provide help, who's going to get the help that's provided. Nobody really knows. So, yeah, thank you. It's unfortunate, but, I do appreciate your transparency in that, Heather, very much so. Chris or Sophia, did you guys want to chime in on that at all?
Yeah, I you want to jump in first? Okay, I'll jump in. So I think to answer the question, shutdown, and my dog is now jumping on me. A shutdown, and if we mean by shutdown, for however long it is, 2 or 3 weeks, if we mean, we're ordering businesses to just stay closed, be closed, just for the 2-week period, while we're in this very crisis point in our number of cases rising and stuff like that. I would say that's not the answer. I would say that's probably worse than a targeted, measured, flexible approach to what types, and I think Peter mentioned this also. Really tailoring the response to the actual areas of concern. So, what are the types of businesses that need to be fully closed? Let's say there's a small group that actually need to be fully closed because they are contributing, to the spread. Well, maybe that's a very small group of businesses, but to apply the one size fits all, I think is going to do damage, and I think we saw that early on in the earlier phases of the crisis. 2 to 3 weeks could mean 200 to 300 Black-owned businesses. From my perspective. So I don't want 200 to 300 Black-owned, Black families to lose their, their livelihood with really no conversation, and then no even. I mean, we haven't even talked about what we could be doing to bring some of the businesses back to life, through some of the finance and funding responses. So I would say no to the 2-week shutdown. Let's be smart. Let's work smart, not hard. Let's be measured. Let's apply the medicine where it needs to go, and then not create other problems where there are none.
Okay, very well said, Chris. Thank you. Sophia, would you like to chime in?
I'd like to echo both Heather and Chris. It's a difficult question to answer, and but at the same time, businesses need to remain cautious and prepared, regardless of whether or not you end up closing for 2 weeks or remaining open for 2 weeks. I think that there's risk involved in staying open, and there's risk involved with remaining closed. Both risks, are unforeseen, and I think that being prepared is to the best of your ability, and for all of us, especially as technical assistance providers, learning from March and learning from how we had to pivot in April and how we had to continue to, stay steady throughout May. I think there's a lot of learning that we can take from the first wave and apply it to the second wave in a way of just being prepared one way or the other.
Sure, absolutely. The preparation is key, as you all have stated. So if there's no shutdowns and businesses continue to operate, what changes can cities make? And Sacramento and any other city, what changes can they make to increase the number of businesses that can operate safely outdoors? And when we talk about safely, there's a number of factors, not just, being able to socially distance and all those things, but also the weather is getting colder. It's a lot harder to eat outside, and I mean, we're in California. We can't really say it's cold compared to other cities and states, but 50 degrees, that's freezing to us. So, but that could be a safety issue, right? So what can Sacramento and other cities do to ensure that businesses are still able to operate safely and outdoors?
I'm not a health expert by any means, and I don't want to pretend to be. I think the best thing that businesses that can do is to do their best to understand city and county guidelines, and to make sure that they're doing their best to abide by them, regardless of what those are. I think the goal is to, remain in business, stay in business, and to protect your business as much as possible. And part of the way that you're going to do that is to understand the restrictions that and the guidelines.
Mm-hmm. Heather, is there anything that the cities can do specifically to help ensure that?
Again, that's a great question, but I think that the city of Sacramento, the county of Sacramento, they have come up with different grant programs that have been very well utilized. I wish that there was more capital out there so that they can further assist. Dr. B had talked about less than 7% of the spread is coming from restaurants and gyms. And yet those two industries are the hardest hit.
Right.
And so to me, that's tragic. So even if, you have a restaurant that's operating at 50% capacity, they still have 100% of their bills. They have, 100% of their mortgage, 100% of their rent. They still have their staff to consider. When we lower that down to a 25% capacity, it just further exacerbates the issues. I wish, this is obviously Heather talking, not the Small Business Administration, but I wish that we could come up with a city to city kind of guideline that would say, here are the industries that are at most at risk, and those ones are just going to be closed for, that 2 to 3 week time frame that you indicated. Perhaps we could see if that would change things, if there would be a pivot. And I don't know. It's a hard, tough situation that we're all in. But it's more than tragic that the Black community is an underserved community with respect to access to capital. And, if we can help with that at all, please don't hesitate to reach out, because I know Sophia, they target minority businesses, as do we. And the Black-owned businesses are very important to our area, to the Sacramento region, to our economic solvency in the state. So we need to be there for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Heather, we have a question from Breathing Space on Facebook. And the question is, are there any updates on businesses needing to still apply and submit documents for the PPP loan forgiveness? There were rumors of automatic loan forgiveness for loans under a certain dollar amount.
So that's a great question. And yes, there were a lot of rumors, a lot of talk with our congressional leaders with respect to loans of $150,000 or less, just doing kind of a blanket forgiveness. Unfortunately, that has not occurred yet. So our administrator has changed the guidelines for the forgiveness for loans of $50,000 or less. and made it a much more streamlined process. So the applicant business still has to go through their lender, whomever they obtained the PPP loan through, negotiate that forgiveness with them, provide the documentation to them per the SBA guidelines. And then that lender has 45 days to decision that transaction, whether, yes, they feel like, the entire transaction should be forgiven, or whether there's a specific portion that perhaps is not forgiven. Once that determination is made, the lender then submits that loan to the Small Business Administration. And we then review that determination from the lender, and we either concur or modify. So that's where we're at right now. We're in the forgiveness process. There's already been thousands of PPP loans that have gone through that process. There's still many more that are coming in each and every day, but we're in the beginning stages of that. So if your viewer needs assistance on their PPP forgiveness, please have them reach out to us at the SBA.
Okay. Awesome. That's good to know that the SBA is actually overseeing the decisions, not just leaving it up to the banks to decide whether or not the loan will be forgiven.
Correct.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay. And then Chris, is there anything that you would like to add as far as anything that the cities can do specifically to help ensure that these, businesses are operating safely and outdoors?
Yeah, I think so. Generally, I think if you go to SacramentoCOVIDrelief.org right now, you can see all that the city of Sacramento is itself doing. I'm not sure if there's a county counterpart to that site to see what the county's doing, but SacramentoCOVIDrelief.org is a great place to see what's already going on, right? So I would. If I had to make recommendations to city officials, which I'm inclined to do as part of my job, generally I'm recommending that they first leave no stone unturned. So if wherever there's an opportunity to increase the likelihood that a business doesn't have to close or close 100%, explore that opportunity. If it's the case that we have to look at some of the local regulatory, rules around, some of those issues, then please look at that, in a way that's ultimately responsible. But also, spend every last dollar you can as a city in investing in your small business community, specifically and particularly your small Black business community. Also, get in the fight with us advocates to make sure that people like Sophia, people like Heather at the SBA, people like Sophia at California Capital Women's Business Center, have the kind of capital that they need so that they can actually get it out to the community itself, right? Cities can take an advocacy role too. So our city advocates on issues every single day, or every single week. There's some sort of legislative advocacy correspondence that our city is putting out. It helps us advocates to have the city behind us, explicitly when we're saying, hey, we need, we need to extend the $15 million small business, grant program that the city of Sacramento, has offered. We need to extend the life and the use and the availability of funds outside and through December 31st, which is where most of these funding programs end, right? That's another thing that our city can do. Get in the fight with us. Leave no stone unturned. Spend every single dollar you can. Look inside yourself as a city and see where are we misallocating resources that are going to, let's say, some of these bigger businesses that we've been propping up forever, where maybe we can start to allocate some of these resources and contracting to some of our small businesses, right? Particularly on the contracting front, right? We have been putting a lot of money over the years into very big businesses who get very big contracts with the city. Now's the time to look at that. Now's the time to refocus. Now's the time to put pressure on if we can arrange or rearrange some of those contracts to put some pressure on some of those big companies to do some subcontracting with some of the businesses that are failing. I mean, there's a bunch of options, on the table. It's just a matter of political will now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love the fact that you brought up about reallocating the funds and taking a deeper look into that, because that unfortunately is happening. And so I think we can ease the burden on some of these small businesses and small Black businesses if funds were allocated appropriately according to the need. So thank you for bringing that up. Another question we have from Facebook user Kwame. He asks, the process for the EIDL and PPP is complicated. I have owned my business since 2004. I recently last year switched over from an LLC to an S corporation last year. They requested tax information and I provided them the information for the LLC. But was told that I could not use them because technically it is two different businesses, an LLC and a corp. I didn't have new tax information for the corporation because it was just started in August, but the LLC is no longer. I keep getting denied. Is there anything that I need to do differently? And this is probably for you, Heather, this question.
Thank you. Tommy, call me at my office, please. I can assist you. It's not black and white. And the fact that you changed your organization type is not an inhibitant of you getting an economic injury disaster loan. So please call me. Happy to assist.
Awesome.
I would just like to also say something that Chris just mentioned a moment ago with, the city and the county contracting. Keep in mind, federal contracting is huge. And the Black businesses, minority businesses are underserved in that area. The Small Business Administration has a program under an 8A umbrella. It's just part of the Small Business Act, but it's a 9-year program that assists businesses. There's a prerequisite that those contractors be in business for at least 2 years. But if anybody is interested in contracting opportunities with the federal government, Sophia, in California Capital, they have something called a Procurement Technical Assistance Center, or PTAC. The PTAC will assist potential contractors to get them to a place where they can apply for the 8A program. And right now is a prime opportunity for you to do that. So, Chris, I'm so thankful that you mentioned that. Thank you.
No, thank you. That's a great resource. Shout out to the PTAC Center, the PTAC team, and thank you for raising that. And if you're a Black business and you're listening right now, please take advantage of that. Please take advantage of that, especially right now. How helpful would it be to have a contract with the government? Right now. Please take advantage of that.
Good.
Absolutely. So, go ahead. I'm sorry, Sophia.
No, just to add, and this is something, we as a federally funded organization, we depend heavily on the advocacy that Chris is talking about, that they provide for us on the ground, because that is how we build our presence within different communities. And so we're very thankful for that. And as Heather mentioned, we have the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. As Chris mentioned, he encourages you to take advantage of it. And within the Procurement Technical Assistance Center, we will walk you through the process from beginning to end. And again, I'm going to say this over and over again, there is no charge to the services that we provide because they are prepaid by your tax dollars, like Heather said before. So we all encourage you to take advantage of the services that are there for you, and we are here to serve you from beginning to end. We want to make sure that you understand those contracts, that you know what's needed, how to fulfill them, how to respond to them, and make sure that your business is capable of meeting the requirements for it. And so we really just wanted to just echo the things that they were saying.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. The information that you guys have shared has been truly invaluable. And so as we're coming to a close, I just kind of want to just go do a quick round robin really quick. Just a minute or less. Any last thoughts, last words you would like to share with the viewers? Let's start with you, Chris.
Well, one, thank you everybody in the chat. Thank you everybody who's here watching. Thank you for taking your time out. Thank you to the amazing panel. And thank you to the team in the background, running a production also. To the Black businesses out there that are still in business and that are hanging on, hang in there, okay? Hang in there. You know that you got people who are fighting for you, who are out there raising their voices so that you get the kind of help that you need. So hang in there. We got your back. Keep up the great work. Thank you for hanging in there this long. And feel good about what you've been able to achieve and accomplish, even through some of the toughest times that we've seen as a country. To the Black business owners that have had to go out of business, you have no shame at all. You were up against something that you will come back from, and there's going to be help coming for you too. And then to the Black business owners to be, the entrepreneurs to be, we got help coming for you too. If you want to start a business, you are going to have as much of an opportunity to start, grow, and thrive in a business on the other side of this. There's going to be a roaring 20s coming out of this pandemic. I'm totally sure of that. And so hang in there. We got help coming for you too.
Sophia.
Thank you. Again, I would just say, use your resources, contact us, and, make sure, get to know us, get to know Chris, get to know Heather, get to know myself. If you don't remember anything that we talked about today, just remember how to contact us. Know that we're here to help. We absolutely want to see you thrive. We want to see you grow. We want to make sure that you're not only taking care of your business, but you're taking care of yourself so that you can take care of your business. Network with your community, learn from other business owners, ask questions, share your challenges, share your successes, because those are the stories that people really need to hear right now, because it's very easy to feel as though you're the only person going through this struggle, especially when we're all stuck at home. We're all, just what feels like these walls are closing in on us. And so network. I encourage you to network. Call me. Hey, so what kind of workshop can I take? What webinar can I take? Who can I talk to about what I'm going through? Find a buddy. Get on Facebook. Join a group. But stay active. Keep your mind motivated, and keep yourself engaged. Stay in tune with what's going on in your community, with your environment. Keep others aware. I would say, be an advocate for your community, be an advocate for yourself, for your business, and be hopeful overall. But again, if you don't remember anything at all, always remember how to contact us here, because that's what's most important. And we're going to always be here to make sure that you get the resources and the services that you need. And thank you all for again, as Chris said, holding on and for doing the work that you've been doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sophia. So network and ask questions. Continue to ask questions. And last but certainly not least, Heather.
So I'm not sure that I can top both of these very optimistic summaries of our presentation. And, I just echo Chris's thoughts with response to, perseverance and, don't give up. Do not give up. Fight for what you have, fight for what you want, and we will help you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Even if you've been told no 10 times, call the 11th time. It's worth it. I mean, it is absolutely worth it. And again, all of the services from the Small Business Administration and all of our resource partners, such as Sophia and the Women's Business Center, are offered free of charge. Please take advantage of those. There's different classes that you can take, different networking groups you can get involved with, different seminars on how to create a business plan or how to do your finances. If you need help with your EIDL or PPP loans, please call my office. I know we had the runner up for the contact information, but if you don't mind, I would love to give it again. It's 916-735-1700. So that's your local small business administration. Again, your federal advocate. So we are here 100% for you. Call me also if you want to get into the contracting opportunities. I'd love to have that conversation. But I sincerely appreciate this platform and the information that was shared. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Awesome. And so again, thank you to all of our panelists. Each one of you has shared information that can be life-changing, honestly, especially for 2021 and moving forward for these small businesses. So thank you all so much for giving us and your viewers your time tonight. And to all of our viewers, we hope that you all have been able to just get the information that you need to kind of help plan for 2021 and continue to survive 2020. So, we want to thank you all for tuning in, and in the words of our awesome panelists, hang on, ask questions and network, and fight for what you want. Do not give up. So again, I'm Nikisha Henry, your moderator. It has been a pleasure. All of you, please stay safe this holiday season. We all wish that you have a blessed Thanksgiving, and just be safe out there. You guys have a good night.
Thank you.